Okay, hello everybody and welcome to our program, Fall Bird Feeding with Barb Whipkey from the Wild Birds Unlimited store. My name is Christine Biglin. I'm a librarian at the Leonardtown Library in St. Mary's County. If you have joined us before, you'll recognize that I'm not Joan. Joan has retired and we miss her a lot, but we wish her well. And I am hoping to fill her shoes with this program. I would like to now get started. I'm going to pass it over to Barb Whipkey from Wild Birds Unlimited.
Hi, everyone. For any of you that are new, we are in our Wild Birds Unlimited store. We have two, one in Lexington Park and LaPlata with Kohl's and Dick's Sporting Goods. And then we have a newer one in LaPlata. We opened that one 2 years ago, and that one is right next to Target. So all of our team members are certified bird feeding specialists, unless their name badge says they're still in training, but then they're a work in progress. But so feel free to come in at any time and talk to any of our team members and get your questions answered, or give us a call, send us an email, Facebook message, however, but just reach out when you do have those birding questions and we will help you through those. So tonight we're going to talk about fall bird feeding. You're probably noticing some things changing at your feeders. One, a lot of your birds are looking pretty sad. They are going through a molt right now. Birds molt every year. Actually, our goldfinches molt twice a year. A songbird has about 2,000 feathers, and they're going to change all those feathers out every year. So they've had their bright breeding plumage on now for the summer, and now they're going to put on a little more dreary outfit. I mentioned the goldfinch change twice a year. So they are, a lot of people think our goldfinch leave, but they don't. They are here year round. They go from that bright yellow to kind of a olive green, just very drab looking. So watch for those. If you catch them now, you'll notice that they are starting to change. They're one of the last ones to molt because they are our last nesters of the summer. So they are still finishing up with nesting, and actually quite a few are still finishing their nesting cycle. Carolina wrens, cardinals, they nest multiple times a year. So if you're feeding our nesting blend, go ahead and, well, I'll show you a bag of that later while it's big screen and you can see it. But if you have our nesting blend, continue feeding that for now. We will be moving into the winter blend. So as you finish up that bag of nesting blend, that has everything that the birds need when they're nesting and when they're molting. So continue with that. One quick note, if you are coming to the store, right now we've got a special with our remaining nesting blend, loose seed, that you can buy a bag for 50% off with any $40 purchase. So that's a really good offer, but we're limited on those. So I wouldn't delay coming in for long. So let's go on into talking. First, before we start, we're going to dispel two myths. Feeding birds year round is not going to cause them to become dependent on your feeders. I'm sure you've heard it. If they get used to you feeding them and you move, what are they going to do? Birds only get about 10% of their food from our feeders. So they're actually supplementing what nature provides. This time of year, you may have noticed that your feeders aren't quite as busy as they were in the summer, or as busy as they will be as we move into the fall months. That's because nature's plentiful right now. Things have gone to seed, insects are plentiful. So they're just kind of using you to top off for the night and the morning and to fill up in between. But you are going to see that change very soon. The next one is that keeping your feeders out will not prevent birds from migrating. We especially hear this a lot about hummingbirds. When should I take my feeders down so they leave? They know when to go. Keep those feeders up at least through Halloween. You can drop it down and only have one or two up, but there's going to be those late migrators coming through. There's not going to be a lot of bugs or nectar sources when they come through. So your feeder can be the difference between life and death for them. Birds know when to migrate based on the length of day, hormones, activity, food sources. If they see food sources decreasing, they'll start to head off, which is hummingbirds are a perfect example of that. As the flowers become less plentiful, you'll notice that's happening right now. And what are the hummingbirds doing? That's starting to head out. So keep those feeders going. They're not going to become dependent, and you're not going to prevent them from migrating. So why is fall bird feeding important? So there's something we call being seasonally savvy. And what that means is feeding based on the season. So I already mentioned that winter or the nesting blend to you. The same, we have a winter blend that will come out that's higher in fat, everything the birds will need for the winter months. One of the things birds are getting ready to do is catch seed away. So we want to offer some foods that are in shells. If you feed no mess, which is a shelled seed where you don't end up with any mess on the ground, now's a good time to add something in with shells that the birds can use, because they're going to store that away for winter. So why feed the birds in the fall? One, it's going to give them a food. All those birds that have been feeding all summer long, they're going to be able to continue, and they know they can hang out in your yard. They don't need to move on and find a new place to hang out for the winter. Many of the birds that we have here, that in fact, most of our common feeder birds, most of them stay year round with us. So we're in an awesome area for winter bird feeding. We keep those cardinals, the chickadees, the titmice, our woodpeckers, all those guys stay year round, but they're going to start looking for a safe place to hang out for the winter. So that's why it's important. If your feeders aren't going down as quick as they normally do, you can fill them halfway full. You can cut those suet cakes in half. Just make sure there's always food there for them, so they know not to go looking for a new home base for their winter months. Another reason is to help migrating birds along the way. Would you take your family on a vacation without having plenty of snacks? No, that's one of the things we always think of if we're going on vacation. Oh, we got to get snacks for the car ride. Obviously, the birds don't have that option. So you're going to provide those foods for those ones that are migrating through. What you're going to see start happening at your feeders is they're going to become very busy. You're going to notice that, especially right now, if it's raining, because insects aren't flying. But as the natural foods start to dry up, you're going to see the birds at the feeder. And what you're going to see is them coming, grabbing something, leave. Chickadees and tufted titmice are the easiest ones to see this happen with. You'll see them grab something, take off, and they just back and forth all day long. What they're doing is tucking that food into the bark of the tree, any little crevices they can find. I watched one time a chickadee all day long. He was poking it in a little opening of a split rail fence. And as he's poking it in, a downy woodpecker's coming and taking it out and moving it to his hiding spot. So really watch those feeders, because it is funny to see the change that you're going to see, where you've seen them through the summer, they're sitting there eating, or they're taking the food and feeding the young. You're just going to see that they are definitely on a mission back and forth. And when you see that chickadee or that tufted titmice, you're going to see every time they go the same direction. If you keep watching and they're nearby, you'll probably be able to figure out where they're hiding it. But if you find a bark a tree later on in the year when the leaves are off, you may see that it's just full of seeds in all the little crevices there. So it's really cool to watch. But those birds that are migrating, their sole purpose right now is to fatten up. They need food for that journey. So we're going to see some coming to the feeders that normally we see them around, but they're not big feeder birds. Summer tanagers, one we're hearing from right now, a lot of customers are seeing. The beautiful red bird is the male. The female's yellow, kind of an almond colored beak. And you'll know the minute you look at it that it's not a cardinal. It's a different color red. But they're at the feeders a lot right now because they're stocking up, fattening up for the journey. So a full feeder is also going to attract and keep unusual visitors. Rose-breasted grosbeak are one that we see come through. If they come through and your feeder's empty, they're moving on to your neighbors. So again, it's real important not to have empty feeders. You don't have to fill them all the way if they're not going down. Mine are still going down very quickly, so I'm filling them all the way every 2 or 3 days. But make sure there is food in there. If there's an empty feeder, they're going to move on, even if they're low on energy to safely do so. Excuse me 1 second. Thank you. So if your feeder is empty, they're going to head on south because they know they have to go. So truly your feeders can be the difference in life and death between these migrating birds right now. The cool thing is when those unusual visitors stop in, you're now on their GPS. Every spring, every summer, watch for those birds because you're likely to see them return because they know you had a feeder full. So don't get discouraged if your feeding activity slows down. It's important to keep some food out there and a variety of foods. Those summer tanagers I mentioned, they're not a seed eater. They're a suet or an insect eater, but they will eat suet from our feeders. So if you only had seed in those feeders, they come by, they're going to continue south because you had nothing they could eat. This particular woodpecker here is a yellow-bellied sapsucker. We only get them in the winter time. If you can, I don't know if you can see it, but on that tree, you're going to see little drill holes that go straight around and they'll be in perfect lines around. That's a classic marking of a yellow-bellied sapsucker. They'll drill those holes, let the sap run down, which will then attract ants and other insects, and then they'll come by and scoop up those little insects. Every year, I've got a couple of them that appear on this tree not far from the house. In the morning, if I have not got the bark butter out there on the tree, and bark butter, for those who may not know, it's kind of a paste similar to peanut butter, but it's better than peanut butter because it's not as sticky. So you don't have problems with them swallowing it. But you use a fork, you can put it right on a tree. If you don't have trees, we have feeders that can go on as well. This particular one is orange because it has hot pepper in it. Squirrels aren't a fan of hot pepper. So I use the hot pepper on the tree. So the squirrels will leave it alone, but the birds can get that. But yeah, a great way to get some of those birds in who don't normally come to feeders is using bark butters on trees. That same tree, I often see a black and white warbler and a brown creeper on it as well. And a ruby crown kinglet too. So those are ones we don't see as often at our feeders. Brown creeper and black and white warbler you rarely see. So think about, if you haven't tried the bark butter, think about trying that on a tree, especially if you can put it where you can see that tree, because you're very likely going to catch some new visitors that way. Okay, these are a couple. Everybody's been enjoying the hummingbirds. While those hummingbirds were here, every female nested twice, raised 2 to 3 young, and guess whose GPS is entered in their system? So they will be back to see you in the spring. So continuing to feed, a lot of people are like, oh, I only get 3 every year. And then we'll ask them, is this your first year of feeding? And it is. So every year you'll see your population increase. Rose-breasted grosbeak, is he not beautiful? That is one of the most common birds that we hear about when it comes in, customers calling or coming in with pictures. What is this bird? They often think it's a pet bird that has gotten out, but that's the male rose-breasted grosbeak. Again, if you get them coming to your yard, you're going to see them typically spring and fall every year. That rose-breasted grosbeak, their favorite foods are safflower, black oil, sunflower, and bark butter bits. So that's what he's actually dining on, bark butter bits there. So again, that's where adding that variety of foods. So if you haven't been feeding safflower, it's a great one to put out some safflower right now. I keep a tube of safflower going at all times. But not all the birds migrate. As we mentioned, a lot of our birds stay here. These are some winter pictures. That top one's a Carolina wren having a bad hair day there. And that one is Bug and Bits is what's in that feeder, which is little suet nuggets with dried mealworms. Obviously in the winter, there's not a lot of insects out there. So if we can provide those insects, we bring in more of those insect loving birds. That is a male downy woodpecker in the bottom, and he's dining on some super suet down there. And then blue jays, they absolutely love peanuts in the shell. If you've not offered peanuts in the shell to your blue jays, highly, highly recommend it. Find a spot, put them in that same spot, or use a feeder. Either way, but when that feeder's empty, they will be sure to let you know it's empty. I had in the beginning started putting them on a deck rail. First thing in the morning when I'd see them, I'd go put them on the rail, yell, "Hey, JJ." Pretty soon at 6:30 in the morning, they started hanging out on the deck rail yelling for me to bring them peanuts. So blue jays are very intelligent birds. They can hide their food up to 2 miles away and still remember where they put it. So they're a pretty fun one to bring in. They get a bad rap. People think they're a bully bird, and they absolutely are not. They imitate the call of a hawk. So when they're flying in this big bright blue thing that sounds like a hawk, you'll see your other birds scatter. But if you ever catch it, once the blue jays they're eating, the other birds don't hesitate to come on in and eat once they see that, oh, it's just one of those silly blue jays. But cool birds to feed. Peanuts in the shell are a great one to put out right now. The blue jays and also the little tufted titmice will also eat those, and they'll use them right now. They're a great one for them to store up for the winter. And I mentioned already talked about caching. So right now you want to offer a couple foods in the shell. Black oil is a good one in the shell. Safflower is a great one. Any of our cylinders, like the one I have up there in the top, that's a woodpecker cylinder. And that is full of high fat foods that they can use to store up. That's the little tufted titmouse I mentioned down there in the bottom. He's got a bark butter bit in his mouth, headed off with it. So birds are looking for three things when they're deciding where they're going to spend their winter. They're looking for a steady food source, they're looking for shelter, and they're looking for water. So you want to make sure right now that you're keeping all those things out there, that you're keeping that bird bath clean, that you have sources of shelter. It can be a variety of different things. We'll cover some of those in a minute. But you want to take inventory of your yard and make sure you have all three of those right now if you want to have a better winter experience with your birds. So when you think about your yard, do you consistently have all three of those things? Does your neighbor have all three of those things? Because if your neighbor does and you don't, guess who's taking your birds for the winter? So we hear it all the time in here, customers, my neighbor put up bluebird houses, or my neighbor started feeding the birds and took my birds. It is cool when neighbors come together and feed, because you'll build a bigger population in your neighborhood. But you just have to get over that initial jealousy when they steal some of your birds. But together you can offer more housing, more food, and you'll build that population in your neighborhood up. But don't let your neighbor steal your birds. So make sure you keep all those three things going. So water, first we're going to talk about water. It's easy right now, water, a pan of water, a bird bath, whatever. As we get into the winter months and it starts to freeze, you need to think about how you're going to keep water out there. The easy button is a heated bird bath. Those are all 3 heated bird baths I have in those pictures. So we have them in a stand like the middle one. The 2 end ones are mounted on a wooden deck and they just clamp on there, pop up to empty, snap them back in place. All you have to do is run an extension cord like you would for your Christmas lights, plug it in. I use them year round. When it comes spring, I just unplug the extension cord and use them as regular bird baths. But if you've got an outlet somewhere nearby that you can plug in a heated bird bath, that's the easy button. If not, you're going to want to every morning, a couple times throughout the day, depending on how cold it is, freshen up that water. You know, as it freezes in the morning, you'll want to pop that ice out of there and put some water in there for the birds. Water, a lot of people think, oh, they can just, you know, there's water puddles out there where it's melting. Well, a couple problems with that is a lot of times if it's melting, there's chemicals or salt. If you watch going down the road, you'll see them around the curbs and that bathing in that water where there's all those chemicals in that running off that they've used in those parking lots or along the roads. So now they're bathing and they're getting that all in their feathers. Birds not only need water to drink, but they have to keep those feathers clean. In the wintertime, they fluff their feathers up to form little pockets of insulation, kind of like a down coat or something, you know, you would get those pockets. If their feathers aren't clean, they're going to clump together, they're going to fall out. So it's important that they not only have a place to drink, but also a place with shallow water that they can get in and bathe. So start thinking about that. I will forewarn you, I'm sure you've all seen this and heard this, the supply chain is horrible. I did order bird baths way early. My teams thought I was crazy when the heated bird baths came in, but I am sure glad I did because 2 days ago I got an email saying we probably wouldn't be seeing them until November. What I've learned this past year is November really means December or January. So we are stocked right now on heated bird baths. We also have heaters that you can add to your bird bath if you already have a bird bath. Plastic, you can put this in, metal, you can put it in. If you have a glass bird bath, please bring it in before our first freeze because your glass one will crack. You can also use this in concrete. The only caution with that, if your power were to go out, it gets knocked out of your bird bath by a squirrel or a deer or a raccoon or all those other animals that are going to enjoy your bird baths too, then that water is going to freeze and crack that concrete. So keep that in mind. But start thinking now about the water. Don't put it off if you're wanting to get it for a Christmas present for someone or for yourself. I would get it early. And then shelter. So the cool little roosting pockets on the left side, if you shopped with us, you know we bring those in every year. Yeah, well, they are on order. So hopefully they will be in soon. When they come, we'll put a Facebook post out there that they are in. But those are really cool. When that one hangs right off my front porch, all winter long, 2 little Carolina wrens sleep in that at night. During nesting season, when she's in the hanging basket with her eggs or her young, he sleeps in that. So last thing at night, he comes to the side of her hanging basket like he's saying goodnight, and then he goes in there. So that's always, it's like an evening thing at our house, especially in the winter. Oh, they're going to bed, and you'll see one in and then the other in. And so those are cute. Let's see what else I have. Boards like this can be used. These aren't things we want them nesting in. They're not safe for nesting, but they're perfect for roosting. Basically, they're just going to go in there and stay warm together. You'll see them mostly at night, but also on cold days, you'll see them in there. Those cute, adorable little houses that you see all the time, this is a great use for them. This one can be used for nesting as well. A lot of those cute ones you pick up at stores, if there's no way to clean it out, then it's not good for nesting, but it's perfect for roosting. So this one, like I said, can be used for nesting because it can be cleaned out. Bluebird houses or Carolina wren houses. I would go out sometime this weekend, clean out any nests that are in there. If they're really messy, give them a good scrubbing with a little bit of water and vinegar. If they're not messy, you can just take the nests out, but go ahead and have those so that they're ready for roosting. In a bluebird house, bluebirds will live in here communally. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I've seen 7 in mine, but there's a YouTube video out there that I think had 21 in it. The guy sat there and counted, and it would pop up on the screen, 1 male in, 2 females in, 1 female out, and he kept track. And I think it went to 21 is what he had. And they just pile up on top of each other for body warmth. So definitely get those houses clean so that they're ready for them to use for roosting. You will see them in the next month or so, and you may have already seen them. People will think, are they getting ready to nest again? Nope, they're just starting checking out your yard, looking for what you have. Do you have shelter? Do you have water? Is the feeder's always full? So, and a good variety of foods is going to bring a good variety of birds. Like I mentioned, using different types of foods is going to attract more birds. I've listed out some of them there, but after I take this off share, I'll pick them up and show them to you. So then, is your yard ready for fall bird feeding? In this picture, this mockingbird has some kind of insect there. Come winter, those insects aren't going to be plentiful. So that's your chance to capitalize on their visits. So I'm going to take this off share, go over some of the foods with you. Okay, so I already talked about that bark butter. It comes in a plain or a hot pepper to keep those squirrels out. Suet, a lot of people are familiar with the little squares of suet. We also have those in regular or hot pepper. Right now, the ones we have are no melt. Once our temperatures are staying in the low 80s for about a week, and looks like fall has really come, we'll swap them out here. You won't even notice the difference. This little no melt will be gone. Birds like the regular better. You would not like the regular better in the heat of the summer. It will just melt like Crisco down the side of your pole systems. So if you happen to come in and want to get a whole case to stock up for winter, ask us for the regular. So otherwise, right now, we have the no melt out on the shelf. Hopefully these temps are about behind us though, and we can switch. Then bark butter bits. Anybody who has used bark butter bits, I'm sure is thrilled with the results of them. It is a little suet nugget. It's a soft nugget. 100 and gosh, I think we're upper 140 species of birds that have been seen eating bark butter. So this is the same as that bark butter, just in a nugget formula. Some of our foods come with the bark butter mixed in with it. You can mix it in. You can use any kind of little cup feeders and put it in there. Tray feeders. Tray feeders are amazing for migration season. As I mentioned, a lot of these birds don't normally come to feeders. So if you use a tray, let me grab something. So a tray, something like this, you can create a whole little smorgasbord in there. Some peanuts, some bark butter bits, some sunflower, safflower, everything in tray feeders. But that's also going to bring in some of those birds that we don't often see at our feeders because they're just landing on a tray. They're like, oh, what's going on in there? They see the other birds and pop right in. So definitely think about adding a tray feeder to your setup. Every time. We have a clock that sounds like a bird, and it gets us every time when we're in here doing these talks and it goes off. You're like, what is that? Winter Blend is just about to come out. We'll be putting it on the shelf in the next few days. However, if you go into the store, I'm sure if you whisper to one of our team members that you need a bag of Winter Blend or Winter Blend cylinder, I'm sure they can find you one in the back until we get them on the shelf. Winter Blend it can be used in your regular feeders. You can use it in tray feeders. You can mix it with your other seed. There's no wrong or right way to use it. I always put it in my tray feeder, and then I have one feeder that always has whatever the seasonal blend is in it. At our house, it makes it easy because whoever's filling the feeder knows that's where the seasonal blend goes, and every feeder has a food at our house. And then those tray feeders are just a scoop of everything that's left over. So as we're filling the finch feeders, the Winter Blend, whatever, we just throw a little bit of everything in those tray feeders. And that Winter Blend and the nesting blend also comes in a cylinder form. If you're not familiar with cylinders, we have a lot of different type feeders. Cylinders have a hole in the center, and then you just drop them on there and hang it up. So another really cool way to feed. And again, if squirrels are an issue for you, we do have cylinders that have hot pepper to keep the squirrels away. And then peanuts, two different ways to feed peanuts. We have peanut splits that can go right into a feeder. We have mesh feeders you can put these in. That's my favorite to feed them in because those birds will just cling to the side and pull it right out the side. That you can just ask us for a peanut feeder and we can help you with that. And then good old peanuts in the shell. You want unsalted but roasted peanuts. So watch for those. Don't go to whatever the rest steakhouse is and bring any of those peanuts home for your birds. We don't want birds with high blood pressure. So, but they definitely do need to be roasted. And then I mentioned safflower a couple times. Safflower is a white shell, a little bit bigger than black oil. And it has a shell on it. So again, they can store it away. Works really well for them to store for the winter. And then we have two blends that are great for when the birds are caching away. One is Choice. So that has some sunflower in there, has some safflower, and has peanuts. So that's a really good blend for the fall season as they're caching away. And then my favorite of my house, I feed this one year round. This is Tree Nutty Plus. So it has peanuts, tree nuts, has some of those bark butter bits in it, has raisins. So if you come into the store, you start looking at this one, somebody will ask you, do you have dogs? If you do, and your dogs can get under your feeders, we don't recommend using the Tree Nutty. Raisins and grapes are toxic to dogs, so we don't want to be able to offer that one. I offer at two different locations in the yard where my dogs aren't able to get to. So it's a great seed, but if your feeders are in the fenced in yard where the dogs are, then we're going to avoid that one. and we would use that choice instead. One last one here is, this one is No Mess Plus. What that means, the plus means, and that's the same for our Tree Nutty Plus. If our foods say plus, it means we've added calcium to help the birds developing the eggshells for growth, things like that. But this one is a No Mess Plus, meaning that everything's been shelled. There's no shells on there. You're going to get twice as much food in this bag as you would one of those others the same size, because you're not paying for shells. I feed No Mess Plus year round, but in the fall, I do start adding some of the choice. I up the Tree Nutty Plus, things with shells for them to store. The advantage of the No Mess Plus is obviously you don't have a mess under your feeders with all those shells. But also in the process of shelling it, the embryo will have become crushed. So any that gets on the ground is not going to grow a bunch of weeds under your feeders. So if you're a No Mess Plus fan, we recommend for the fall that you take one of your feeders, move it out a little bit, and put something in it with the shells to offer the birds the opportunity to cache it away, to store it away. You know you're going to have feeders there for them year round. They don't know that, so they're preparing for the worst. So that instinct is there for them to store it away, even if they've been there with you for 3 or 4 years. Still, instinct is going to tell them store some food away. So by storing things in the shell, it's going to better protect them when it gets wet, snow on it, things like that. Oh, one other type of suet. This is a favorite of a lot of our customers, are the suet cylinders. It's equivalent to 3 of those little square cakes. It's a no melt formula, so you can use it year round. There's several different feeders you can use it in. This is one of the favorites because it looks like a tree. There's not a lot of learning curve. The birds instinctively go to it, and then they're like, whoa, wait, what's that in there? I had a hairy woodpecker that has been coming to it multiple times a day. We see them around in the yard. We don't see them that often at the feeders, but this is his favorite feeder, and he's on it multiple times a day. And I'm assuming because it looks more like a natural, he's just figured he's found somebody stashed in this tree and he's going to clear it out. Definitely, the more types of suet you can add, the more activity you're going to find. And especially as we move on into the winter months, you're going to up your suet offerings. But now many of those birds that are going to come through are insect eaters. And again, insect eaters are the ones who love suet. So with that, what questions do you have for me?
Okay, well, there was a question, when will the winter blend food be available? But you already said that's going to be coming
Yeah,
out.
just sneak in and ask somebody. They'll find you some.
Okay. You talked about blue jays liking peanuts. Do they happen to like acorns?
Yes. So peanuts and acorns are their 2 favorite foods. So you can, if we have a good acorn year, and especially if you have little ones, I used to use the grandkids for this, have them gather up some acorns, put them in a bag in the freezer. You don't want to just bring them in the house because there's lots of little worms and critters in those acorns, but you can freeze them to offer to them through the winter months. Oh, but we're going to freeze them so we kill off anything that might crawl out of it.
In a very sturdy Ziploc bag.
Yes.
Okay. Judy D said, I've seen Carolina chickadees going in and out of my bluebird box during the day. I checked inside, there's nothing in there. Are they just checking out a place to roost? Absolutely, Judy. You've got to. So that's that behavior. It confuses people because it's like, are you getting ready to nest this late in the year? But nope, they're just starting to watch to make sure. And birds will live communally in there. You might
if you were to put a camera in there, you might find a downy, a chickadee, a titmice, multiple ones in there at night taking shelter. I've got a screech owl box, and in the winter, we'll sit there and just laugh at the multiple birds and the type that go in and out of that screech owl box. And I have noticed they've already started checking it out too.
Now you had said that some of the decorative boxes are okay to put out for roosting, but they're not good for nesting.
Yes.
So is there like a day you have to take them away?
Yeah, so check those boxes. If there's not a clean out port, get those down early in March. You want to take those down so that they don't try to nest in those.
Okay, but it's okay from now until the very
Yeah,
beginning.
now until early March, I would pull them down then
Okay.
at that point and then just put them away.
All right, well, that's a nice use for the decorative ones.
Exactly, yes. People, once they know that you like birds, they buy you all those cutesy little ones and you're like, oh, not a safe house. So
Thanks.
it's something you can do if you don't want to sit them all around the top of your kitchen cabinet or something.
Okay. Do you sell the bird box camera or recommend one?
We don't sell one. I do know a lot of people. Blink has a low profile one that a lot of people will use on bluebird houses that they'll just mount in the top, but we don't sell any of those. So many of our products are warranted, and obviously with an electronic type thing, we can't put a warranty on that.
Oh, she had also said that she was hosting Evening Grosbeaks February to April this year. What are the chances that they'll return?
So that was a real fluke, and she was very, very, very lucky. We have not seen the winter finch report. When that comes out, it's done once a year, and that tells us what birds we can expect to see in the winter. So we'll see our usuals. Our juncos will be here, our white-throated sparrows, maybe purple finches, but depending on the year that they have had in the Northeast, if food is not plentiful up there this winter, more of those birds are going to move further south. Last year, we had an amazing, it's called an eruption year is what it is. So last year, evening grosbeaks are one that we just don't rarely ever see down here. So, but I mean, there is the hope that the next eruption year, you know, especially if it falls close behind, that they will find her again this year. So, but gosh, I don't even remember when was the last time we had evening grosbeaks that spent the winter with us. So that was a rare. Typically, the ones we see a lot on eruption years would be the pine siskins, purple finches, and the red-breasted nuthatches. Everybody loves the red-breasted nuthatches. Cute little birds that are not afraid of us at all. But yeah, hopefully we'll have an eruption year.
You just mentioned a report that you looked at.
Yeah, it's a finch report. And what they do is through studying and seeing, you know, if they've maybe had a lot of rain or not enough rain or wildfires in the Northeast. So all those different things come into play. And so if there's the feeling that there won't be enough food there, this report will tell, like, we're expecting to see these birds travel this far south. And so it's a cool finch report we wait for every year. Excited to see what it's going to say. And it's usually very accurate.
And is that just online? Like, can we get to it?
Yeah,
too?
it'll come out online. Once it comes out, we'll share it on our Facebook pages and that too.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, so it's an annual one that we can't wait to see.
And is that all over the US? Like, does it?
Yeah, they'll kind of map it for the entire US, which birds, and Canada as well.
Oh, that's neat. So it's like the Farmer's Almanac for
exactly. Yes, for the bird world. Yes.
Okay. I don't think I think we covered the questions in the chat. If anyone else has another one, please type it in there, or you can just turn your microphone on and ask, because I know sometimes it gets to be like a little too much typing. I have a question. Let's say somebody's brand new to bird feeding. What would be the starter package?
I would say come in and tell us you're brand new to bird feeding and we will fill your head full. We love getting people new to the hobby. So what we would do is just give you a whole tour of the store and go over a lot of things. Those cylinders that I mentioned, the seed cylinders on those feeders, those are a great way to get started because it's really nice and easy. We also have the seed cylinders in really cool seed characters shaped as animals and that. So that's fun for everybody too. And we have one of those in a hot pepper variety, but those are great for gift giving as well. But yeah, I would definitely recommend if you're able to just come in and plan to spend some time with us. Weekdays or weekday evenings are best. Saturdays and Sundays, we get pretty busy in here sometimes, but anytime you can get in though, we'll show you around. And yeah, as soon as you tell them you're new to the hobby and you want to get started, it's on and you will go out with your head this big.
So bring a notepad.
Right.
Okay, do you sell the clamp to attach electric bird bath to a deck?
So our electric ones come with the clamp attached already. So it's the bath and then it has the metal clamp that you just put down on and then screw tighten it.
Okay, and do you think that's an attachment you can get if you have? Okay,
no, they're designed, yeah, specifically for this type of bird baths. So if you have, it would depend on your bird bath. We may have stands that we could put your bird bath in, but the deck mounted ones come as one piece.
Okay.
But there's no reason you couldn't just set the whole stand up on your deck as well. You know, if you have a regular one or a heated one, just set it up on the deck next to the rail if you wanted. And we only recommend those deck mounted ones for wooden rails. Unless if you have the vinyl rails, as long as they're a solid rail, but if they're the hollow type, we're afraid of when you clamp it down each time of it crushing that vinyl.
Okay. Oh, there's something. What did you recommend for cleaning the bird bath?
Bird bath cleaner and the brush. So we have a cleaner that's awesome. It's an all-natural cleaner so that if you were to leave some residue in there, it's not going to hurt the birds. And that way you're also not using a bleach and water solution that you're dumping into your lawn. And then just a soft brush. Thank you. So this is a bird bath statuary cleaner, all natural. You would just spray some of that in with a little water, use your brush, rinse it out. And then we actually even have a bird bath protector that you can put in with it, which will help keep your water fresher longer too. So that's a good additive, especially in the winter months. In the summer, we're changing the bird bath so often anyway that we a lot of times don't need this, but in the winter, it'll help a lot because you're going to be able to leave it without changing it every 2 or 3 days. Right now, I have several bird baths and the water's going down in them pretty quickly in just a few days.
Do you have to be careful about the type of water that you put in a bird bath?
No, just your regular water outside from your hose is fine.
Oh, okay. That's nice. Oh, there's another question. How close together can my pole systems be to each other?
So I might have quite a few in a small space. The question comes in if you're squirrel proofing those. It's usually fine because when we talk squirrel proofing, you're having to put baffles on them. So they can come up about 3 feet, but they're still not going to be able to jump up there. You want room between them so that the birds can travel freely, but you can have, 2, 3, 4 in a fairly close area. I think I don't even know how many I know I have a total of 9, 10, 11, something like that. Some have multiple feeders, some only have 1 or 2. One, yeah, I have a lot and they're pretty close together.
Okay, so that's probably not a big issue.
No.
Oh, there was one note, I think, talking about the bird bath, a recommendation to try poop off that comes with a brush. Do you recognize that?
Poop off. Yes. We have some poop off there. Yeah. We can't get the ones with the brush right now. Usually it's not really needed for bird baths though. This is more for weather guards and feeders, but it really is poop off. And it just kind of disintegrates the poop.
Okay.
But yeah, in bird baths, that's usually not as big of a deal. It's more the algae and that we're having to scrub off of there.
Okay. All right. I'm just scrolling back in the chat to make sure I didn't miss anything. Well, we're just about out of time, but I'll call last call on any questions if you're thinking about it and you'd like to put one out there. Okay. Well, once this recording gets captioned, I'll be able to send the link out to all of you who registered, and I'll include a survey, and I'll also include a link to the next program, which is on October 14th, and I'm really looking forward to this one. It's the top 20 backyard birds of Southern Maryland.
Yeah, that is a great one, especially for those that are new to the hobby too.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll not only cover who they are, but what some of their favorite foods and their favorite feeders are as well.
Yep, I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, well, I think that's everything, and I'd like to really thank all of you for coming out tonight. I know it's hard to get back on the computer, for most of us who are already on it a lot. So thank you for spending some of your evening time with us, and thank you very much, Barb, because you have such a wealth of knowledge, and I'm so happy that you're happy to share it with the rest of us who want to know about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you all for attending, and hopefully we'll see you all in October or in one of the stores.